All right, today we're gonna be installing something very special that I received in the mail. PNW components, dropper post, because this old one had for way too long. It was made when people were riding velociraptors instead of horses. Doesn't really work anymore. So we're gonna be installing this new dropper post, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how to do that today. Do is just loosen your old dropper post, and just one clamp up top here, normal Allen key, one clamp at the seat, push your cable through, and then pull it out of the seat. So once you have your clamps loosened on your seat and your handlebar, you can just go ahead, push the cable through like I said, and then at your dropper post you'll have something that looks like this. It just unscrews basically. You can do it with your hand, or if you have a cable dropper post, you can just, it's a little cable, you'll just pop it off. It's really straightforward. I actually have a little hack that you can do so you don't have to worry about trying to feed your hose through the frame if yours is internally routed. You can actually take your new hose and you're just gonna tape it to your frame right there. And then you just, when you pull the old one through, the new one feeds through the frame. You don't even have to worry about trying to internally route it and deal with all that annoying crap. So yeah, just a little hack. All right, now that your old hose is taped to your new hose, you can go ahead and pull it through your frame. And I'm gonna try and do this with one hand in the camera. Actually, I'm probably gonna have to turn the camera off because you wanna be really careful with this one to make sure that your old hose doesn't separate from your new hose, because it's just taped on there right now. So that way you can pull it through. And I'd use Gorilla tape because it's really the only tape that's probably gonna even stay on there. All right, now that you finished pulling your cable through, like I said, you tape the old one to the new one. One of the best hacks there is out there, because you don't even have to worry about internally routing it, trying to push it through the little holes and, you know, fish it out with a magnet or whatever. You literally just tape them together, pull the old one out, and it pulls the new one through. And now that that's done, the next step is to just get the seat onto the cable. All right, so now that you untaped your old cable, you're just left with the new cable already pulled through, the old one in the back, of course, here. And another little tip that I would say is you don't need to buy a $200 internally routed dropper. It's like 1 mint for internally routed. If you have this little hole in your seat right here, like most bikes do, you can literally just slide it under the clamp right there and then use a cheaper externally routed dropper post. This one was like 120 bucks rather than spending $200 on a dropper post that's meant to be internally routed. Now you're just gonna slide your cable through the cable housing here. If I can get this dumb thing to go through. It's hard to video and do this. Come on, dumb thing. Go to your home.
Didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
And make sure this little metal piece is at the seat end, not the handlebar end. Then you'll just grab your PNW dropper post, or whatever dropper post you're working with. This one's pretty lit. I wish this was my bike, but it's not. And you're just gonna find the little gap right there in the square, and it just comes right out from the square down into there, whatever that's called there. And then let me try and do this with one hand. Oh, come on. Okay. You're gonna want to put your clamp back on, obviously, before you pull your dropper post through. Just like that, boom. And you just push this dropper post down. Might take a little bit wiggling. Once you have your seat where it's supposed to go, your next step is to get out your dropper post lever. You can use any lever you want. This one's a loam lever, which matches sick with the frame. So that's kind of why we got it, I guess. I don't even know. But next step is just gonna be to loosen this little bolt right here so that you can slide the cable underneath it. Okay. That. And that's gonna be a 3mm clamp. Sorry, I don't clamp. 3mm hex. If you do externally route your dropper post, you're gonna wanna zip tie all your hose to the frame to kind of see how long it is, and then you're gonna wanna get ready to cut it with your pliers or whatever you have, because I'm not gonna buy a $50 cutting tool from Park Tool. All right, now that you got your hose pulled all the way through, up there, now you're just gonna wanna cut it to the length that looks right to you. You know, kind of hold it right there, turn your handlebars, make sure you have the full range of motion. I personally leave the hose a little bit longer than most people would, just so that I'd rather get cussed out for it not looking good than having to buy a new hose. That's just my opinion. Now that you got your hose measured, you found your point where to cut it, you're gonna wanna try and cut it with the crappy pliers that you had because you're too cheap to buy Park Tool. So you're gonna struggle with that for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll get on to the next step. The next step is gonna be to put your little rubber end deal onto the hose, just like
a boss.
The next step is to get your clamp, and you're just gonna run your cable through this little end here, steel here, and then let me see. You'll just slide it through here. It'll come out right there. You'll slide it. The little line right there, that's where your cable comes out, and then you just tighten it with that screw. Your lever should look like this after you're done, and then you just pull the cable tight, and then install it on your handlebars. So your next step is gonna be making sure that pull the cable really tight when you're tightening down that last screw, and make sure this dial here is turned all the way in so that you can pull it out if you need to, and make sure that your little rubber piece is all the way inside, pushed up into the seat post right there. So now I'm just gonna hold this really tight with one hand, try and film and do this, and I'm just tightening that screw at the bottom, and that should be pretty tight. Let's see. Now in theory, it should work. Well, you're probably gonna want to put your seat on. All right, so when you're done with that, you just kind of tighten up the lever there, and then you know, you pulled it tight, tighten that screw. Everything should work. Like a normal dropper post. And if it doesn't, I'm not responsible. Contact your local bike shop. And I have one more kind of pro tip. You're probably wondering what to do with the old dropper post. And if it's working, you can always keep it, use it for a different bike in the future. But if it's not, post it on Pink Bike, write it's a 2020, write that it's working. And on that note, I'm gonna wrap up this video, but first, the reaction of how happy my mom will be with her new dropper post. Come back! Come back! Well, I guess she doesn't like PNW components. I think their dropper posts are pretty good.